One of the most controversial topics in the Sonic fanbase is always Sonic's design. This isn't even a recent thing, this has been a thing for a very long time. Dating all the way back to the late 90s, early 2000s when Sonic got his Green Eyes update, there's always been the question of what Sonic is better. Is it classic Sonic? Is it modern Sonic? Is it Black Eye Sonic? Is it Green Eye Sonic? And more recently, what arm color is better? While these may sound ridiculous, this is something that people do care about. Sonic is a lot of people's favorite character. This is a character that means a lot to a lot of people. So seeing it changed and shifted around after knowing something for so long can be hard. So recently when I made the statement on Twitter that I preferred Sonic's arm color as blue, let's just say the response was a lot. This is clearly a touchy talking point for the Sonic the Hedgehog fanbase, as this is much more fresh than the Green Eyes debate, for instance, with blue arms properly being introduced back in 2014. So today, we're going to be having a conversation about Sonic's arm color, why Sonic's arm color has been the way it's been for so long, and why recently it's starting to be changed. But before we dive into this, I'd like to introduce today's sponsor, Mech Arena. I'm sure a lot of people in my audience love playing shooters, but as we grow up, there's less and less time to play those shooters. So that's why Mech Arena is the perfect way to play these shooters on the go. I can play a couple matches in less than a few minutes and still have a really fun experience walking out before I have to do my responsibilities. The maps are perfectly designed for fast and efficient gameplay. Not just that, but there are plenty of encounters with other mechs that doesn't just create for a fun experience, but for a very intense one. Mech Arena being so fast paced, it just makes me want to keep coming back to it more and more whenever I have time off. I'm able to get a quick action-packed game in for a quick 5 minutes and be excited to come back for another match immediately after. And even though it isn't one of those quick reflex first-person shooters, it doesn't feel slow like a lot of mech games do. You can actually go pretty fast in this thing. Mech Arena's got a ton happening this month, including Battle Pass Season 6, where you can get your hands on some amazing new skins and a bunch of other goodies. And if that's not good enough, there's a ton of special events happening where you can get your hands on new weapons, skins, and a new pilot, Asami. Mech Arena's getting bigger, and that means bigger prizes, more competition, and more fun. It's completely free to play on Android and iOS right now. And you can use my personal link or the QR code right here to get a free starter pack worth $45. A mil-spec skin, 500 A-coins, and 70,000 credits to help kickstart your game. And if you're quick, you can add me to friends, and we can play some matches together. So don't wait around and download Mech Arena today. For a majority of Sonic's run as a character and franchise, his arms have always been tan. But the question of why often comes up. If you look at Sonic's supporting cast, it's not the case for a majority of them outside of characters like Amy. Tails has yellow arms to match his yellow fur, same with Knuckles, same with Shadow, etc. Well, back when Sonic was created in 1991, this is what video games looked like. Still appealing and you can still tell what's going on, but there's not too much detail obviously, it's 16 bits. So since Sonic isn't the most detailed character, you need to be able to see certain parts of his body. And for a character that runs and moves his arms often, you need to be able to see where they're going to create a better animation and illusion of the character. So Sonic's arms were tan to contrast against his body. So back then if his arms were simply blue, it would kind of all meld together in a way. Yeah, his gloves would kind of give that illusion, but it's not significant enough. So for that reason and that reason only, that's why Sonic's arms are tan. This was the case for over 20 years, unlike the eye debate, which goes from black to green in only around 9 years. This was a constant in Sonic's character design for much longer. Which honestly, if you ask me, if you're gonna make the change to 3D, why not change his arm color? You don't have to worry about contrast anymore. But hey, they chose green, and you know what? I like the change to Green Eyes. The first real time that Sonic's arms changed was in 2014 for Sonic Boom. Not only did Sonic's arms change, but every character from the Sonic cast got a major design overhaul. When this change was made, the fan base was not necessarily the most happy.
Don't call anybody!
And while yes, people are upset about the blue arms, there were other things distracting the fan base from talking about that. But honestly, compared to the Green Eyes, I didn't see that much of an outrage from older fans. Definitely there were people who complained about it, and there were definitely people who still don't like the blue arms. But as a whole, Sonic's character design wasn't that different from the main series in Sonic Boom. Yeah, there was this sports tape and some extra quills, and outside of that, you can still tell it's Sonic. And plus, Sonic Boom was always a fully 3D series, a CGI TV show, a 3D console game, these 3DS games, which while yes are 2D, you can still perfectly make out Sonic's arms. And honestly, the blue arms kinda help Sonic blend in with the rest of the cast. Like I mentioned, all other Sonic characters outside of Amy, who is another hedgehog, have had the same colored arms as the rest of their bodies. Part of the reason I think Sonic and Amy are the only characters characters who have this. Not only are 2 of them hedgehogs, but these were the only hedgehogs in the classic 2D games. Characters like Shadow and Silver, who are also hedgehogs, were introduced in 3D titles, where the contrast of their arms wasn't really an issue. Why Amy's arms stayed tan in Boom, I don't know. Also, part of the reason I don't think a lot of people were freaking out that much was because Boom was a side series, and it wasn't going to affect the main series. Not just that, but Boom was a massive failure, so I don't think Sega would want to do anything remotely close to it again. But as time passed, Sonic Boom ended. The main series was back with Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces. Not only was all the Boom content over, but Sega was actively avoiding doing anything with that property. It seemed like Tan Sonic was back forever, and we never have to worry about Blue Arms ever again. That was until 2019. Although we had the teaser poster beforehand, we couldn't exactly make out if his arms were blue or not. Maybe they would change, maybe they wouldn't, but when we got our first trailer for the Sonic movie, they were back. The blue arms. Not only were his blue arms back, but this entire design was terrible, let's face it. Unlike Boom, which softened the blow by being still really consistent with Sonic's design in the main series, this was a total departure, not only being photorealistic, but everything accompanying the design in the movie looked terrible at the time. Not only does not support the cause for the Blue Arm Boys, this almost killed the whole initiative. After this trailer released, a bunch of Sonic fans made mock-ups of what they would think the design should look like, and I honestly don't know what it is. It just doesn't fit for me. But with the shocking reveal, it was announced that the design would be changed. And with this design change, the film would be delayed, and when they announced the delay, this is the photo that they used to accompany it. As you can see right there, although Sonic was given gloves, he still has his blue arms. So then the official design was revealed, and he looks pretty great. That movie has been out for a while now, and we have a sequel, where fans have had the opportunity to get used to Sonic's blue arms. And since this no other new Sonic media has started to use the blue arms, in fact Sonic Prime isn't doing so, but this is where a lot of conversation in the fanbase has arisen. Are the blue arms better? Not only do people love this updated movie design as it's a more modern take on the Sonic characters, but a lot of people are asking if blue arms should be Sonic's arm color now. We have to remember, the reason Sonic's arms were tan was because of technology limitations back in the day, not being able to see Sonic's arms move. But now that is not an issue not only in video games, but now you have movies and TV shows where you're able to perfectly see Sonic's arms move no matter what color they are, even if they're like purple. So is this necessary anymore? Even new sprite art is proving that you can use blue arms to distinguish what color they are. And do tan arms look better than this? Well, needless to say, it's a very complicated question to answer. I think it depends on the design that you're using. I've seen people try to put tan arms on Movie Sonic and it looks weird. I've also seen people try to put blue arms on Yuakawa Sonic and it also looks kinda weird. Not only are we adjusted to these character designs because we've seen them for so long, and seeing specific pieces of art tampered with, adding a different arm color is of course going to look weird because it's different. But also, those designs were made with that arm color in mind. Specific examples include the Sonic movies, where even though this by no means is realistic, it still needs to blend into the real world environment to not look absolutely weird. It's not one of those staple things in Sonic characters that you have to maintain. In fact, I don't think there's anything necessarily about Sonic characters that have to be consistent throughout every interpretation. I think we need to start looking at the Sonic franchise and these characters and their looks kind of similar to other major franchises. There's always a new Batman costume, there's always a new Spider-Man costume, the Ninja Turtles have gone through massive redesigns. If Sonic is always going to have multiple new interpretations in multiple forms of media, he's going to have multiple new character designs. Are all of them going to be our new favorites? No, but it's something we kind of have to learn and accept. I love both of these arm colors and I think they work great with the character, but like I said, it depends on which design because each design is made for that specific arm color. Fun fact, the former social media manager for Sonic the Hedgehog, Aaron Weber, talked about how they did a focus test where they asked people what color Sonic's arms were, and a majority of the responses were blue. We have to remember that the general audience makes up a majority of the money that the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise brings in. Even though the Sonic the Hedgehog fan base is very vast and wide, and it is extremely passionate, the general audience for no matter the property will always make up a majority of the revenue. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. At least to Sega, of course. So while we might have debates and discussions about the topic, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because a majority of the people who consume Sonic don't think it matters. Plus, it's not really anything to get outraged over. Simply switching an arm color isn't the same as getting Sonic these big pumping biceps with veins popping out. Now that's where I draw the line. I'm a fan of tan arms and I'm a fan of blue arms, but the question is, what is better? It's kind of complicated because I don't think there is an objective answer to this question. I think it all comes down to personal preference. All of these Sonics represent something different to different people. Believe it or not, Boom was probably somebody's first Sonic. Sonic movie has been people's first Sonic. This traditional modern Sonic design has been people's Sonic. With the tan arms being around for as long as they have been, it's kind of a staple of the Sonic character and what fans were used to, so when that changes, it's kind of a representation that the character itself is changing. I've always been a weird revolutionist when it comes to Sonic. I like seeing the characters in different scenarios and interpretations. I like something fresh, I like something new, especially with a franchise that's been stale for a long time. But that's not everybody, and that's fine. Some people might view that change as the franchise growing away from them, evolving beyond what it was for them. But how I've always kind of looked at it is that way of it being somebody's Sonic. This Sonic will always mean something to somebody, and that means more than anything. This Sonic isn't going anywhere, and this Sonic isn't going anywhere. These will forever live on as iconic Sonic the Hedgehog designs, but because it doesn't necessarily matter in my opinion, doesn't mean that the discussion can't go on. This all stemmed from thousands of people giving their takes under my tweet, which isn't a bad thing like a lot of people make it out to be. As long as you're being respectful and having a fun time and giving genuine reasons as to why you believe what you believe, that's so healthy and fun. I hate when Sonic fans are bouncing back and forth giving their take, and there are people who look at that and see that as toxic or annoying. Let people have opinions, especially if they're doing it in a healthy and respectful way. So with all that said, what is better? Tan arms or blue arms? Well, that's for you guys to decide yourselves. Except that blue arms is the right answer. You're wrong if you think otherwise.